What's going on, you guys? Today I'm going to be talking about how I put together this PC right here. So this is my first ever water-cooled PC build, and honestly it wasn't the smoothest process, but it's finally done and I've got it to where I want it to be, at least for now. And the goal for this PC was to build something that I can game with and I could do some productive work with. When I say productive work, I mean editing videos, dealing with photos, as well as streaming content, streaming gameplay content, or just anything in general. This isn't my first PC build, but this was probably the toughest one for me. And the reason why, it's not because I find building PCs to be tough. That's not the problem. But the problem was because this is my first water-cooled PC, and I didn't know exactly everything that I needed, to build a water cooling system. So I ran into a few issues along the line, but nothing that couldn't be solved by just picking up extra parts. Before I go ahead and dive into how I built this PC, I'm gonna let you guys know right now all the things that I went through in order to get the parts to build this PC. There's multiple ways you can go about cooling your PC, but I decided to go with the water-cooled system because I've never actually used that system before. So I'm used to the conventional fans, and I've even tried an all-in-one cooling system, so an AIO pump. But this time I wanted to build my own modular, cooling system, kind of pick up the parts and put it together for the first time. All the problems that I ran into were associated with the water cooling system and the pump and reservoir combo. So when I bought the pump reservoir combo, I didn't know nothing about water-cooled PCs and how to build them, how that system worked. That's one thing I'll tell you guys to do right now, is make sure you do your research before you build any kind of PC at all, but especially a water-cooled one, because you can damage your components if you're not careful. I kind of decided to start out small, not go too crazy with the build from the start. So I decided to water cool only my CPU. And I know some of you guys are gonna say, if you're gonna go water cooling, you might as well cool your GPU. It's the one that runs the hottest and gets the loudest. And I get that, and I plan to eventually upgrade this entire system. The idea to build this PC came up when I started running into problems trying to stream from my older PC, which I built, but not for heavy gaming or streaming purposes. I built it for just general office work, small stuff, nothing crazy. But I started to record 4K HDR content. I'm talking off of the PlayStation 5 using my Elgato, and it just couldn't handle it. So I decided to pack that PC up and convert it into my server build, which now stores all my 4K videos, all my general cloud storage stuff. So it's my own personal cloud storage in essence. If you want to watch that video and how I did that, make sure to check out the video at the top of the screen right now. So the first part that I picked up for this was the graphics card. I don't know about you, but that was the hardest part, or hardest piece of this entire PC for me to find. And honestly, I wasn't even looking for this exact card. So I was looking for something that fit my specific needs and aesthetic needs as well. So when I say aesthetic needs, I mean I was looking for more of an all-white PC, but I couldn't get a white graphics card, so I went for the black ones. So this is an NVIDIA 3080 Ti graphics card. So it's one of the best out there right now. Pretty powerful, ray tracing, HDMI 2.1, all of that cool stuff that you need from a graphics card. So I picked this up for about 2,099 Canadian dollars at the time when I bought it, which was last year in July, during a short restock of graphics cards at Best Buy. So I don't know how hard it is to find these things now. If anything, they're probably being scalped and sold at extremely exorbitant rates, which honestly is just not worth it. If you're not looking to build a crazy PC, there's no point. So I don't know if you guys can still remember the good old days when you could just pick up, a graphics card for like 500 bucks, regular price. I don't know, but those days are gone now, far gone, because of the surge in crypto mining, which, has changed a lot now. After picking up the graphics card in July of last year, so notice how long ago I picked up the graphics card. I didn't have anything else that I could use to build the entire system. I needed a bunch of other things. I needed the motherboard, I needed RAM, I needed, the processor, the CPU. Towards the end of last year, Intel launched their 12th generation chip, which is the Alder Lake. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. So I went ahead and picked that up. It was right on time for my new PC build. I didn't want an AMD processor. I know some of you guys might say you should have went for an AMD processor if you're trying to game and whatnot, but this is a productivity and a gaming rig. So it's not just a gaming rig, and Intel tends to do better with productivity kind of work. So I got the i9, I think 12900K or something like that. At the same time, I picked up a motherboard to go alongside that Alder Lake CPU. So the motherboard I picked up was the Asus Prime Z690P Wi-Fi. So I got that for about 300 bucks. I got the Alder Lake one for about 800 Canadian dollars. And then I ran into my first major problem, finding DDR5. So when I picked up the motherboard, I knew that I would need DDR5 because DDR5 was launching around the same time as the Alder Lake CPUs. And honestly, I didn't think it'd be that hard to find. You know, I know it's new tech, but I was there at the beginning. I went to a bunch of stores locally. I'm talking Memory Express, Best Buy, wherever it is. I went online, Newegg, Amazon, doesn't matter where, trying to find DDR5. I even went to the official manufacturer's websites. I was ready to take any kind of DDR5, even though I wanted a Dominator RGB ones from Corsair. So at that point, I decided to move on to other parts of my PC build. During the Black Friday sale of last year, I went ahead and picked up a bunch of parts from Corsair. So a bunch of PC components that I needed, you know, parts that weren't extremely hard to find, like graphics card and DDR5 RAM. So I picked up a case, I picked up a bunch of fans. So in total, I picked up about 7 fans. So 3 at the top, 3 along the side, and then 1 on the back end of the case. I didn't need fans for the front end because I picked up XD7 Reservoir and Pump, and I was going to install that in that space right there. I also picked up Corsair's RM850X power supply to power this entire system right here. I had a Samsung 1TB NVMe SSD just laying around, and I also had that installed in there. So at this point, I purchased everything that I needed to build the PC except the DDR5 RAM. Early January, I went into Memory Express and they had a few of these sticks. But the cost of DDR5 RAMs are through the roof right now. It's crazy how, you know, how much it costs right now and how much it's going to cost in about a year or two, because those things are gonna drop in price extremely. So I picked up about 2 of them, you know, a set of 2, because they don't have those 8GB sticks that I would have preferred just to fill out my entire RAM slots. So I picked up 2 16GB RAMs because that's how they come, as a combo of 2 16 to make up 32GB RAMs for the Dominator series. And they didn't have white ones as well, so I had to pick up the black ones. Like I said, a few components are black, but the majority of components in there are white the way I want them to be. The price of a pair of DDR5 RAMs, the Dominator ones, cost $600. So 600 Canadian dollars for 2 RAM sticks. And I don't need 64GB of RAM. I don't see how you could need that much. Honestly, most of the time, you'll never ever use that much if you're not doing, you know, intensive work. I'm talking professional level work at the highest level and stuff like that. You know, 32GB tends to be enough for gaming and most of the productivity work that I do. All right, let me show you guys how I've built this PC. And then after that, I'll talk about all the mistakes that I, you know, made, especially with the water cooling loop, or things that I would want you guys to avoid when building your own water-cooled PC for the first time or the second time if you've forgotten, you know, a few things or whatnot. here's what it looks like when it's powered on. Everything is completely working fine. I installed Windows 11 Pro. Everything works great. There's no overheating at all. Nothing I've noticed so far. I've installed programs like Hardware Info to kind of check the core temperatures of my graphics card as well as my CPU, and you know how the overall system is performing. And you can see there's enough RGB in there. I don't know if you're a big RGB kind of person right there, but I've got enough of them going in there. So I'm honestly really happy with the build so far. So let's talk about the mistakes that I would advise that you avoid when trying to build yourself a water-cooled PC, especially for a first-time person. First of all, you want to make sure that you get all of your components. So you do your research, make sure that you know every part that's required to build a water-cooled PC. So in essence, you want to make sure that you have a reservoir or a pump or a combination of both to have a combo. And then you want to make sure that you have a radiator, but make absolute sure that you get the right radiator size for your case. So I went ahead and picked up the wrong one. It was too large, didn't fit with the fans installed on it inside this case. So I had to return that and get something that was, thinner and that fits better. I've got the XR5 radiator in there. There's also the XR7. So the XR5 is the smaller one that's thinner, and then the XR7 is thicker. And then you want to get a CPU block. So a water block for either your CPU or your GPU or both. So it depends on which ones you're trying to cool, or if you're trying to cool both. You can always go further and always cool your motherboard, your RAM, but I would not even go I wouldn't get to that point. For me, I'll just cool my CPU and my GPU. That's the maximum that I'll go to when, using these water cooling loops. So make sure that you know what you're trying to cool and you get water blocks for all those components. So for me, that's the CPU water block. I didn't get anything from my GPU water block yet because I wasn't trying to go that far just yet. So I'll probably end up doing it. And don't worry, I'll make a video about that when that happens, if it does happen. Something else that you will need is a coolant. So you can make your own homemade coolant or you can buy one. I just went ahead and picked up one of the colored ones from Corsair. And finally, you want to make sure that you get the right fittings. So I've got a bunch of white ones right here, 90-degree angles and regular fittings, as well as one that joins a ball valve to another one of these pieces. So it's an in-between one that I didn't even know I needed. So like I said, you're gonna have to do your research, make sure that you know everything you need. I'm going to link down in the description everything that I've used for the water cooling part of this build, as well as everything that's inside the system. If you did find this video useful or enjoyable, don't forget to leave a like. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, turn on notifications by hitting the gold bell icon right next to the subscribe button, and I will catch you all in my next video. It's Midas, and I'm out, y'all.